all good things come to an end. And while we could spend eternity debating if a Mark IV is really a good thing, what we can't debate is that mine came to an end, a rather abrupt one at that.
Yep, you heard that right. The car in the Mark IV TDI buyer's guide was totaled only 2 weeks after the video aired. But even with the shock and horror of the accident, one thing remained. I wanted another TDI, only this time newer. So I hit the car lots, test drove a bunch of them, and came home with a 1987 Ford Ranger.
Well, as it turns out... Get this down here real quick. Well, as it turns out, Mark 6 and 7 TDIs are really expensive, and for a guy with no money, this poses a pretty obvious problem. So I bought this instead.
And although I love the Ranger, it's left me a few times, twice on camera alone, just enough to be a reminder that I should daily drive something a little newer than 36 years old. So I turned to Copart and bought the cheapest Mark 6 TDI that I could find.
And no, although I wish it were, this is not a sponsored video.
My new Golf sat for almost 3.5 months while I searched for parts. Facebook part outs, local junkyards, you name it. And the few parts that I could find were shockingly expensive, like $300 to $400 for a hood that had damage and was the wrong color anyway. So in the meantime, I tore my car apart and realized I needed more parts than I originally thought, so that made things even harder. Then I had a lucky break.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. I am now the proud owner of not one, but two almost identical 2012 Volkswagen Golf TDIs. They're both wrecked, one's hitting the front and one's hitting the back, so you can imagine my plan from here. I won the car yesterday at work, imagine that, I was bidding on company time. Don't tell my boss, actually he already knows, but... The car is about 100 miles away. Let's do it. I'll see you there.
So, I'm gonna pull in, get checked in, and then hopefully we'll get this thing and get right back on the road because I don't want to stay here any longer than I have to. This place has always amazed me. Swing around here. So this is the loading area. All right. I'll check in and now we wait. All right, first inspection. Let's have a look here. Boy, howdy, this thing is here. Mercy. Whoa. So after getting in touch with the previous owner, whose name was still on the title, I found out that the car was street parked in front of this kid's house and was hit by somebody going over 50 miles per hour. And thankfully, nobody was hurt. Now, this wasn't my only reason for getting in touch with him. The car was sold with no key, which meant the steering wheel was locked. Couple that with the left rear wheel jammed into the rocker, and you have a recipe for well, just see for yourself.
Now I pretty much need the entire front end off of this car. So both headlights, grille, bumper, both fenders, and the hood. And then a couple of things under the hood, like this piece here, this like reinforcement behind the headlight. I think even the airbox is cracked on my car, but we'll just kind of pick and choose as we go. And this should really be pretty easy. I need to find some wood to knock on. Yeah, here we go. Nice piece of cherry or whatever this is. Sure, we'll just get to taking this thing apart. Where are you? Just start easy. Start with the grizzle. You ever say something and just regret it immediately? Yeah, this one. Oh, well, that wasn't hard to take off. Wonder if all the clips are broken. Probably. Well, I'm sure you guys don't want to watch me do this because you've already seen me do it once on the other car. So, time lapse? Yeah, time lapse. We'll do that. Just a couple of days later, snip, snap, whatever, got this baby torn apart. So I figured I would try to recoup some of my money through this project to try and make my final car, the final 2012 Golf that's hitting the front back at home, as cheap as I can. So my goal was to sell whatever's left on this car. Now the hood obviously I'm keeping for the other car, but everything else from, you know, the windshield back is up for grabs. I posted it last night and then made a TikTok this morning about it, and I have been bombarded. I have to get to work. I've got switches to pull, doors to pull, steering wheel, cats, DPF. Those are being scrapped separately, but you guys have ravished this car.
I sold what I could, and after a couple weeks, pulled the plug and scrapped what was left of the car. All in all, I made back exactly what I had spent, which was just shy of $2,000. And this was great. I was left with everything to fix the other car and a complete low mileage TDI swap for a future project.
Look, I completely understand if you're like super confused at this point as to which car I'm working on, because this is the car previously shown in this video at the very beginning when I took the front end off and all that. This is the car that I'm actually saving, right? So this car was a deer hit, and the biggest and worst part of the damage is the inner fender support right here is kind of munched in and crunched a little bit. Otherwise, it's not very bad. I've already pulled on it a little bit. It needs to come up to match the fender. Otherwise, it's really, really close, and I think we'll be able to run it no problem. Now, apart from the damage, this thing needs a bunch of maintenance work, like brakes, a timing belt, and fluid changes, and filters, and all that kind of stuff before it's really ready to be daily driven again. There are 9 days until my appointment, so I need to get cracking on this thing if we're gonna make it. Yeah, here we go.
This clip was the day before my salvage inspection. Hell, it could have been the morning of. The point is, I made it. After my initial investment of $2,100 from Copart, breaking even on the parts car, and 3 boxes of Rock Auto Parts, I ended up having $3,000 in the Golf.
And here we are. The culmination of hundreds of hours worth of work and terabytes worth of footage for this 2012 Volkswagen Golf TDI. Although this might sound strange, this is the nicest car that I've ever had. And if it's not the nicest, it's certainly the newest, and that is worth something. And was it worth it? I think so. It's a great little car, and I've loved it so far. Plus, it makes me really appreciate my old cars, and my old cars really make me appreciate this. And with that, I guess the last thing to do is drive the car and wait for the CP4 to explode. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.